Hello, everyone. This is Cody Lee of BlackCatBooks.org, author of Eye of the Dragon, Cruel and Beautiful Rabbit Hole Lore and Friend, the upcoming Jaw of the Dragon. Well, after like an entire weekend of thinking about how much I liked the Mario movie. I think I like it more now than I did when I first saw it because I've kind of turned around on certain things. Like I initially found myself like disappointed with like the lack of plot, but like upon further reflection, upon thinking about what Nintendo was trying to do, it actually did make sense to have a straightforward, easy to follow plot line because we've already seen we've already tried the Mario movie once, and like the first Mario movie, the '90s one, had like problems with the continuity and just being too grimdark and being hard to follow. So I think like having like a basic, straightforward Mario adventure is actually what the franchise needed to kick off like the film series, right? So upon further reflection, actually do really like the movie and do intend on seeing it again. In fact, I already have it pre-ordered from Amazon, so I will be watching it again when it gets re-released on that platform. But for now, though, I have been spending the past while watching a bunch of YouTube reviews, and typically the absolute worst reviews are calling this mid or just kind of okay. Like most people seem to enjoyed it to some extent, but there are like a handful of exceptions. I think like the most notable is like that stupid that ignorant woman, Grace Randolph. That's the one I see like a lot of people talking about, who, the typical YouTube critic, right? Someone who doesn't know anything about the games, who is just critiquing the movie based on like arbitrary expectations and has no like real appreciation as to like what the audience, people who are fans of the brand, are expecting and want to see. So like, that review in particular is getting a lot of flack. But for me personally, the movie that's gotten me the most angry, the one that was like very unfairly negative, was the Angry Joe review. Now, I myself like did a fairly critical review of the Super Mario Bros. Movie. Like I would have called it like a 7 out of 10, like maybe an 8 out of 10. Like I don't know what I would have called it, but like there was no denying that like I enjoyed the movie, right? Like I had problems with the film, but like I talked about those problems, but like maybe I was a little bit too harsh, right? But like looking at like the review Joe made, like I feel as if like this guy has completely lost the plot. This guy has no idea what he's talking about. And I've known that for a long time. I've talked about this since like, even before the Breath of the Wild review and just like all sorts of things. Like this guy still pretends that like Nintendo DMCA claims like gameplay footage of their games, which isn't true at all, which, being a Nintendo streamer, I would know better than he does. Like it's weird to see this guy make this review and try to pass this off as a disappointment, right? Because I had problems with the Mario movie, but I would never have called it like disappointing. But this guy comes out and legit makes like some of the most ridiculous complaints I've ever seen in regard to this film, and it's time to really go back and talk about it. Let's play the video.
Hey guys, we just got back from the Super Mario Brothers film. This one some 30 years after the original with John Leguizamo, and his live action disaster all those years ago. Nintendo decided to we're gonna give it another shot, or at least Illumination was like, hey, let me license this from you, and we can make a lot of money together, and it'll be fun. And honestly, I saw what was happening on Rotten Tomatoes, where it came out pretty bad, mixed reviews. It was like, holy shit. And then I also saw a rush of people, people rushing, like, oh, this film's awesome. What are you talking about? Like, Skill Up recommends it. So obviously, I was interested. It's like, what is this going to, is it actually going to be good? As you know, when I saw the trailers, I was like, man, this thing is going to be entertaining, it's going to be funny, it looks faithful, it looks really good. So I just got to say that, man, I really, really, really wanted to like it more than I ended up liking it. unfortunately. But hey, in the end, Luigi got respect from that one couple's dog. Yep. Never thought that I would be saying something like that. Look, I'm sure kids are gonna love it. So we went to a showing with a bunch of kids in the theater, like 1:30 p.m. showing, and they seem to be enjoying it. Some of them seem actually kind of be more distracted throughout the film. But here's the thing. Is that it's like, Joe, no, please don't do the critic thing and don't love the film that I love. I want to, man. I want to.
Yeah, you'll get this feeling watching this video, just how much like Angry Joe is going along with like the establishment narrative. It's kind of interesting how Joe tries to lean onto like the anti-SJW stuff and the typical critic stuff to try and justify his opinion. You'll see as we go through this that like Joe really has no idea what he's talking about, like at all. Like, I'm not exaggerating here. Like, this guy is legit like seriously trying to make these wild statements. Like the problem with this review, to put it like very, very simply, is that like Joe is very much an establishment critic, right? His goal is to like try and get you to like watch Marvel and like defend Disney and stuff like that, right? This Mario movie is proving itself to be very, very anti-establishment in certain ways, because so many of these film critics are controlled by like big film industry like conglomerates, Disney in particular. So seeing Nintendo like put out something like this and have it like be this well received is actually a really big threat to them. And that's why so many critics are coming out against it, like making all these like weird statements, trying to like find some reason to not like it, to not appreciate it, to like find some kind of excuse. But like when you get right down to it, like this is better than like modern Disney movies. This is better than the vast majority of films that have come out in like the past 10 years. Like this is legit a fun, entertaining movie with like wholesome values. Like again, this has a lot of merit to it. And Joe tries very, very hard. Joe and the establishment critics try very, very, very hard to downplay those elements in order to project in order to push an agenda. In this case, like pretending the movie just has no value.
I wanted to love this so much and tell you that all the critics are fucking stupid and wrong, and let's support video game movies, right? Because it's Super Mario, it's so good. Honestly, Sonic was bad.
Bullshit. No, Sonic from a conceptual standpoint was completely fucked up. Right? Like who wanted Sonic in the real world? You know, when they did that with Sonic X, like that was one of the most unpopular things ever. Like nobody liked that. Nobody. Like Chris is like one of the most hated Sonic characters in history to this day, just because of how much he took away from like the core plot from people who genuinely love like Sonic the Hedgehog, Sonic Adventure 1 and 2, like everything the series was doing up at that point. Like Sonic in the real world does not work. Like it fundamentally was a mistake, and not enough people bring that up. It's not just Sonic. It's like every cartoon movie ever where they like come to New York or whatever and they like interact with live actors. Like that is complete garbage. Like I don't understand why they keep doing that. The Mario movie gets it right. It is not only a, in the Mushroom Kingdom, like it has its own version of New York. It's fully animated. It has its own personality, its own feel. It feels like a Mario movie, right? It actually feels like the games. That shouldn't be like a big major milestone, but you have to understand just how common it is, even for like, to completely screw something like that up. You know, Sonic the Hedgehog, Castlevania, Monster Hunter. There are so many like notable There are so many like notable. There are so many notable video game adaptions that just completely screw everything up, and the Mario movie is not getting enough credit for its faithful recreation of that. Like when people are talking about this movie, they're not talking about like that aspect enough. And like it's a big reason why this movie is so successful, because it perfectly adapts the games to film.
Sonic 1, Sonic 2, so Sonic like that.
Mario's already outperformed both Sonic movies, by the way. Go fuck yourself, Joe.
Or no, it's still gonna make gangbusters. I'll tell you, man. Our theater was somewhat packed. So, here's the thing: is that what do you expect, Joe? Well, I expect to laugh. I expect to have a lot of fun.
Okay. I mentioned this in my review too. Like, the movie didn't make me laugh either, but like, it's not laugh out loud funny, right? Like, funny things happen in it, but they're not like something you openly laugh at, right? And like, looking at like the kind of movies this guy likes, he specifically cites like Lego Batman. Like, Mario is not a comedy, right? It's meant to be an adventure story, right? Like, that's what they're trying to do here, and that's what they excel at really well. Like, it's a fun adventure, and it excels at that aspect of it. And this guy keeps focusing on like the humor and like, oh, it didn't make me laugh. Well, it's a fun, like, charming adventure. Like, it reminded me a lot of One Piece or something like that. That's where it's not like outright funny, but it's goofy and it has a lot of personality, and you just end up like getting really invested in the characters. Like, he's trying to justify why he's giving the movie such a low score, but you'll see, like, as we go through this, that like he doesn't really have any real reason to feel like to do this, right? Like, every single time, it's like he's just trying to find some kind of excuse. Like, he's trying to downplay the movie really because it's a Mario movie. Like, you don't see him like acting this way towards Sonic or like the Monster Hunter, like any of these other adaptations, Castlevania, that have like that are also aren't funny. It's just him like trying to like reach and find something to complain about.
I didn't laugh a single time. Maybe I chuckled once.
All the good parts that I saw were obviously in the trailer. Those were the best parts. Other than that, there was
The trailer is literally the
best
film.
ones.
Yeah. So, am I the crappy one here? Did you guys actually like it?
Oh, I loved it, Joe. Loved it. You know me.
No, they didn't focus on like a lot of the drama aspects in the trailers. They didn't talk about like what actually happened in the film. They didn't talk a lot about like Mario and Luigi's bond. Like that, they'll say like the best parts were in the trailer, but they're specifically talking about the funny parts. They're not talking about like the actual adventure. They're not talking about like what ties all these together. They're trying to downplay it, and it just does not work.
Go.
No, I wanted to like this more because like I saw the trailer, it looked funny, but that was the best parts. And then I look at a review, it's like, this is a 10 out of 10, shallow writing, but it's not meant for you, it's meant for kids. But that's just, that's at the same time.
It's meant for fans. Like that is the real problem. Like, I think people are being a bit disingenuous when they're saying it's for kids, because clearly it's for like people who like Mario, and that could be like anyone of any age, like people who grew up with it or like have any familiarity with the characters. Like, the problem is that like Angry Joe hates Mario, he hates Nintendo, he hates the Switch, and like that's the real problem. These guys, all three of them, especially fucking Alex, fuck that guy. They've been like working overtime trying to downplay the Switch for like and Nintendo for like the past 6 years. Right? Like, Angry Joe, I don't think has covered a single Switch game since like Marvel Ultimate Alliance 3. And that's basically only because it was Marvel, and like Marvel is like his bread and butter right now. But like, these guys hate Nintendo. Let's make it very, very clear. These guys don't know what they're talking about. The main reason they're so upset is because they're not familiar with the brand. They didn't know what to expect. Just
Like, no, I hate it too, because Sonic was written better.
Yeah.
It was made.
No, it wasn't.
Lego Batman, God, I could not stop laughing.
Yes.
It
So
was
you can't
charming.
have a good writer.
This has no chemistry, no charm between.
wrong. Mario and Luigi, Mario and Peach, Mario and Donkey Kong. Like, there are so many great moments between the characters in this film, and like Joe even goes on to acknowledge some of this, especially between Mario and Luigi, that like it's really hard to take any of it seriously. It again, like I said, it's reaching. He's trying to justify his ridiculous negative opinion about the film, but it is in no way based in reality.
The best part about it is
the only emotional weight it has is that Mario and Luigi are brothers. And they love each other.
And even then, they separate
And
and
they
make
Seko.
Thank you, Joe. I was gonna say-
Wow, what is wow, separating them is a mistake? That's the core conflict of the movie, right? Like Luigi's kidnapped by Bowser and Mario goes to save him. That's why Mario and Peach like form that connection and become friends and like start like go off on their little adventure together, like go to get Donkey Kong. Like it is the driving focus behind the plot. How is that a mistake? Like, they establish Mario and Luigi's relationship, and then they split them up. You're supposed to care that Luigi got kidnapped. Like, got captured. He wasn't kidnapped. But, like, you're supposed to be invested. Like, what is so difficult to understand about it? Like, it's not that hard to wrap your mind around, Joe.
Huge mistake to separate the two characters because they did have some chemistry together.
Everybody else, no, it was
Bullshit, no.
Everything was going a mile a minute.
Yes, another thing with me is like,
I really liked the fast pace. Like maybe towards the ending, I kind of like felt it was going a little bit too fast, but like for the first like 80% of it, like I really, really enjoyed it, right? Like I love the fact that they showed off so many locations. I love the fact that they just kind of like expected you to just accept like the crazy world and like the aspects to it. Like I really admired about the film, and to see them like try and say like pretend it's a problem is just laughable. They did so much in a 90-minute film. It's insane.
Look,
92 minutes, excuse me.
Luigi didn't really have much to do. You separated him with Mario.
Bowser the entire time, get that one cool scene that you see in the trailer. But other than that, you only see him when he's like lusting over Peach.
That was weird.
And
So
now
we
he's
got
got
back,
like
Confirmed for not knowing anything about the characters. Like anyone who's played the RPG or like seen the cartoons or like played any of the games, like where Bowser has like a fraction of personality, will tell you that like that's why he kidnaps Peach, is because he likes her, right? That is like a basic core aspect of the character that anyone who knows anything about the Mario brand would tell you. Like it's the entire plot of Odyssey. It's the same thing. Like it's not that unusual. Like come on.
I get trying to give Bowser a reason to always be capturing Peach,
but we don't need a reason in this film because Peach is not always being captured by Bowser. She's a 100% girl boss.
Yeah, like I said, like the whole girl boss thing, it seemed forced as fuck. I really felt like when this was happening, that it was like kind of the agenda, right? It was part of like an early attempt at like downplaying this movie to like general audiences, is that like, oh, this movie, it's going to be woke. Like, you know, it's weird, isn't it? How like right-wing audiences were told the movie was going to be woke, but left-wing audiences were told it was like not going to be woke enough. Like, isn't it interesting how like different groups of people were told completely different things about this movie? It was to try and manipulate your opinion about it. It was to try to manipulate you into like not wanting to see it. And, you know, this talk about Peach, you know, it's disrespectful to the character. It means you don't know anything about the legacy. And like, also it means you didn't watch the film, because like calling Peach a girl boss, like saying like she's completely in control of the situation all the time, that she's like a character with no flaws, is completely incorrect and wrong. You know, Peach is super likable in this movie, right? Like I enjoyed her a lot. And like, you know, like pretending like she's the real protagonist is just so disingenuous. It's ridiculous. And Joe will like continue justifying this opinion throughout the review.
She has no flaws. She has no faults. She never even had to train. She's Ray Skywalker, basically.
That's how desperate he is to like push this girl boss angle. Oh, she's just like Ray Skywalker, bro. Ray Skywalker went into the Millennium Falcon and like knew how to work it better than like Han Solo did. Right? That's Ray Skywalker. That's what you're talking about when you're talking about like woke stuff in a modern movie. Peach is nothing like that. Peach is competent, right? But she's not that, okay? Like, there's nothing really all that out there about, like, Peach's portrayal. Like, you know, they give a proper explanation as to why she's so good at certain things. She's very welcoming to Mario and, like, you know, immediately agrees to help him. Like, Peach is very true to the character. And I don't see why there's this narrative, like, against it. Like, it really is just, like, an attempt at, like, trying to cause some kind of controversy with the film. And in the end, it didn't really amount to much. Like, I don't think anyone who saw this, like, really has a problem with the way Peach was portrayed in this.
The best ever, and she doesn't need saving from no fucking man, okay? And that's fine. I can actually get over the girl boss part. It's not. In fact, she's the hero of this film. Without her, there's no hero of the film. Mario bumbles his way through the entire film, and then
did he even see the movie? Like, Peach does a lot. That is true. But, like, Mario is, like, rises to the occasion very, very quickly, right? You know, you had, like, the whole challenging Cranky Kong thing when, like, Peach was about to fail to, like, get the Kong army. You have, like, everything that happened on Rainbow Road. Mario, like, you know, went up against all those guys. Like, you have the finale where he takes on the bonsai build. Like, Mario accomplishes a lot in this film. You know, to say that, like, he's not the protagonist, that's like something out of like a 4chan shitpost. Like, when we saw like Peach for the first time in the film, right? Like, that's just like so out of touch and so baseless. It makes me feel like Joe just like saw what people were saying on social media and is just trying to imitate it with like no real understanding of like what he's talking about.
right at the end, all of a sudden, he's good at everything. He wasn't good at anything, now good at everything, and then the film was in, and then it ends.
Look, like I said, I wanted to tell you the critics are stupid and wrong, but the Angry Joe Show has ingrained in me a need to tell you like it is and how I saw it.
This is someone who defended Man of Steel, by the way. Go fuck yourself, Joe.
Do I think you might have fun? Yes, maybe you might have fun in it. But me personally, I didn't laugh enough. I didn't feel the situations were creative enough. And I saw the fucking critics, the moronic critics are like, the film was fine towards the beginning with the New York stuff, but then it started to do things like power-ups and you know, blocks and running. Like, that's the game! What do you expect from a Mario movie to be based on the game? That's what it's supposed to be! So I was just ready to punch some critics in the face. But honestly, but that's not what the problem is in the film. Not, at least not for me. It's just that, you know,
It's obviously like two extreme sides.
yeah.
I don't know what they expected, but I know what I expected. A Lego up to the par Lego movie, up to the par Lego Batman, funny Sonic writing class, Sonic. Right. None of the jokes were particularly funny. None of the visual gags were particularly creative. It was all very corporate feeling to me. Like we're just using a license, and it'll be a surefire hit without any real passion infused. Perhaps what happened is
this guy is. How can you say this movie doesn't have any passion? Like, there's so many like acknowledgments to like classic Mario lore, to like other Nintendo franchises, to like, you know, the creative visuals. Like, this was clearly like something that had a lot of effort put into it. Like, Miyamoto personally worked on this, right? And you can tell, like, it's not. To say call it corporate is just, again, disingenuous. There's nothing to like suggest that being the case. Like, it's just him trying to like find something to like complain about. And this is from a group of people who all defended like The Last of Us and like Castlevania and like the Sonic movies and stuff like that. Like, these guys, complete frauds. I've been saying this for a long time, but these guys are like the absolute worst.
The story's paper thin, and everybody's excusing that. Because I get it. Look, Mario saves Peach, but they don't even do that, right? This is so.
Yes, they do. Like, Peach almost got like almost lost when she was like when she got into that fight with Bowser on the thing. Like, she got one up over him, but like she never would have won. Like, saved all those people without Mario and DK, right? It's just no, that's wrong.
But honestly, if they did Mario save Peach,
it might have been better. It's a simplistic story, but there's really no chemistry at all between Mario and Peach.
No, nonsense. No, completely wrong. Incorrect. Like, objectively false. Like, this guy is just making it up. That's not true. Like, Mario and Peach do have like a great dynamic right from the onset. You can tell that they like each other a lot, right? And like, to say that like there is no chemistry is just objectively wrong. Okay, one of my favorite things about the movie was Mario and Peach's relationship, right? Like, just so frustrating.
Think of it, but I didn't expect much, but I did expect to laugh and did not be so bored.
Yeah. Even when we had those cool scenes where, like, we have Rainbow Road, we have, like, a jungle place, it doesn't give you enough time to chew on the scene. They're like, all right, next.
Why were they on the Rainbow Road, Joe?
Because they were going somewhere, and then they got captured and announced.
They were on the Rainbow Road because they were gathering an army to fight Bowser.
They already had the army.
They needed to get there quicker, so the army was driving on the Rainbow Road, and then they were ambushed by the rival army on the Rainbow Road, and then we do the Rainbow Road for
And the next scene.
and the next scene. The film was going a mile a minute and going from location to location, but it never managed to hook or engage me in any meaningful way. Alex, let's see that.
This is a joyless, soulless exploitation of nostalgia of an IP, and it
Typical, like, anti-Nintendo logic. Like, oh, man, people only like it because of nostalgia. That is, like, the most basic bitch complaint you could ever have about, like, a Nintendo movie, like, a Nintendo product. It's not just, like, you know, this movie, but, like, you see people like Alex all the time, like, saying this kind of thing is that, like, oh, you only like Nintendo because you're nostalgic for when you were a kid. Like, it's just... No, that's not the case at all. Like, you need to grow up and, like, understand that people like these games, they like these movies because they're good. Like, get over yourself.
It's a paint-by-numbers kids movie, but without any of the humor or the heart. They risked nothing, and that's what they accomplished. Like, this is not an interesting movie. Now, if you're sitting with kids and you're looking at a movie through the eyes of children, you may enjoy it. If you go to the zoo and you've seen monkeys a million times and you see it when you're there with my godsons and they're looking at monkeys, and I don't give a shit because I've seen them a million times, you're like, oh, it's cool, I get to experience that. But I'm judging it, you want to have fun through them. So people who are like, this is a 10 out of 10 movie, you're probably looking at it through the eyes of their 3-year-olds that are sitting next to them. They're not judging the movie. They're not looking at the movie for what it is, and this movie is not good. There's not a whole lot of cohesion between the characters. The story is terrible, and it's fine because, like, I was expecting terrible. But even in these
Terrible? Like, is he serious? Like, the story is basic. That's not the same thing as saying it's terrible. If anything, it was extraordinarily good for what it was, right? Like, that's the thing a lot of these people don't understand is that, like, there is beauty in simplicity, right? There is an appeal in simplicity. There is... being simplistic is not a bad thing, a bad quality to have in a piece of media like this, right? And, like, because it's not like, ooh, it's not Endgame with, like, 20 movies worth of continuity building up to this moment. Like, oh, man, it's too simplistic. Like, just stop, all right? You're embarrassing yourselves.
Terrible fucking movies,
The Minions movies they make, there is more heart and there's more humor in stupid fucking Minion movies than the movie that I actually wanted to get. I mean, I grew up...
They're seriously... Okay, now this is gonna get good in a couple of minutes. I've seen this review a couple of times now, but, like, let's take a step back and, like, analyze what he just said. Worse than the Minions movies. They're seriously going to come out and, like, make that claim, is that this is worse than Minions. This is worse than, like, Despicable Me. This is worse than, like, Illumination's other output, which, I think everyone can kind of just agree, like, right off the bat, is not the case at all. Like, like, from actual animation experts that I've seen, people who actually talk about, like, Illumination films and are actually invested in animation, like, people in the animation community, right? Like, those guys will tell you that, like, Illumination, this is one of the best movies they put out, right? Just by, like, on the quality of visuals alone, and just, like, you know, the attention to detail, to the continuity of, like, the respect to the Mario brand, like, from that aspect alone, this was actually really, really solid. But, like, they won't admit it. They really are going to try and, like, throw everything at the wall, saying that, like, Minions was better, that Despicable Me was better, that Sonic was better. Like, trying to find something, anything that'll stick, and it's just not going to work.
Playing the regular Nintendo, like that's the old one. I played that one.
And then I played all the ones that came from there. I had the Game Boy, I had all these things. This was a movie that I wanted to feel like a kid again, and instead, I got nothing. This movie is not a good movie, and good for you. You made a really gorgeous world, and the animation was brilliant. But Yeah.
I mean, what did you want? Like, they did nothing with it.
Exactly, the writer. I wanted to look up the writer because I need somebody to blame. Matthew Fogel. Looked up what else Matthew Fogel is.
What exactly, like, what complaint about the script do they have other than the fact that it's not funny? Like, we're like almost 10 minutes in now, and we haven't like seen a single valid complaint other than the fact that like it's not all that funny. And and then like again, the film isn't a comedy, so I don't understand why they were so upset about this. Like, I do think this is kind of a problem, honestly, is that these people are seriously like evaluating a movie for not being like in animation. Like, you just they have this expectation that like every animated film for kids is meant to be a comedy, which isn't really true at all. Like, I would put this up there with like, are like classic Disney animations all that funny? Like, is Fantasia all that funny? No, like it's just animation, all right? Like, animation should have a variety of different genres, and it should be trying to do different things. Like, Mario excels at being an adventure story. It's not meant to be a pure comedy, and yet that's their big fixation with this review, is that like, oh, it's not funny enough. But like, so that's not what it's trying to be.
Silent Tree, that's not nothing.
Minions: The Rise of Gru. Well, I think we reviewed that one. That one, I honestly had a little more chemistry and heart. The Lego Movie 2, the second part, didn't like it as much as the first, but I mean, it's all right, I guess. And then now we have this one. That's it. Oh man, I'm sorry guys. I know you already downloaded the video, and I know that you're yelling at us because we're using the critic's brains. But I tried real hard. I tried to turn off that critic brain. I was going,
No, we didn't. How many Nintendo games have you played over the past couple of years, Joe? Like, I've seen your reactions to the trailers. Like, I was not surprised at all that you did not like the film. Like, honestly, like, I was having conversations with people in Discord about this. Like, I wonder how badly Angry Joe is going to downplay this movie. It was actually like the one thing I was looking forward to, like post release, is like seeing what Angry Joe had to say about it and seeing how badly he coped. That like this is actually a good movie, and like I was completely 100% right. Like, Joe, among my community, has a reputation for downplaying Nintendo products, right? It's getting rather frustrating seeing this guy come out every single time trying to say that like, oh, that's not good, that's not exciting, I'm not going to react to that Nintendo Direct, I'm not going to react to that trailer, I'm not going to like give a positive review to this Mario movie. Like, he does it all the time. Like, this isn't anything new. I'm not surprised by it, but I'm so frustrated by it like every single time that this happens.
I don't know if you're a fan, right?
You're not a fan, Joe.
Colorful visuals just does not
do it for me. Going from location to location for no reason, and no fucking rhyme or reason, and no story, no stakes, no chemistry, no funny, no nothing, man. I'm sorry. I'm reading a critic thing here. Let's see. It's like fruit stripe gum. Super colorful, and then instantly loses its flavor and charm.
Yeah.
That's right.
tedious
inarticulation of the obvious. God, these critics are so fucking pretentious, but they're right. God damn it.
Joe has become one of the establishment critics. That's all this is. He has just as little idea as what Mario is than like the average like professional critic. Fuck him.
Seems generally concerned with putting on an authentic experience for children and their parents alike. First-rate production values almost redeem the bland, soulless blockbuster formula.
Also, I want almost redeem.
The music in this movie is fucking weird because anytime they use the original score, it was great.
Yes,
They get to the jungle, and you're expecting "Welcome to the Jungle," instead we get "Take on Me." It's like, what the fuck is happening? Doing? Like, there was a bunch of 70s and 80s
It's funny because he's an 80s ape.
I guess, sure. I don't know
That's
what it
not
was.
funny. That's not Super Mario.
Kids are
That's
gonna
gonna
get
be
that.
funny within the
You're
universe.
supposed to like it. You're the fun uncle.
Take on me.
It totally makes sense.
Like,
Like
so,
so,
right?
right?
When all these sequences, there's so much fucking rock, 80s rock and 90s rock, 80s rock.
It works for James Gunn.
And it's like, yeah, that's what it felt like. Like, you know, right, the songs were selected first, and then we kind of made up what they were going to do during those songs to fill time. Because songs are great. These are classics. People love them. Adults love them. Children love it. It's just a great part of time. But it doesn't serve the story. It doesn't do anything within the film other than just blah, blah.
It's terrible. I mean, it wasn't Welcome to the Jungle. I wish it had been Welcome to the Jungle. Because they were in the jungle, right? They didn't take on me, but they could have done Paper Mario or something like, that fits the song, and then people that actually know the music are like, hey, this is fun. It's just, we get the rights to this song, what are you going to do with it? I don't fucking know, put it in that scene. It's like, well, that doesn't make any sense. Like, kids are stupid, who gives a shit?
So, I think it was Grace Randolph said something really stupid, like the CGI is awful or bad, or I don't know which critic said. I'm not going to throw race.
Angry Joe hated the movie. He hated it. And even he is shitting on Grace Randolph. That's that's how bad that video was. Go fuck yourself, Grace. You're shit. Never going to watch your video again.
But she didn't like it either.
But I'm like, what the fuck are you talking about? The best part of the film is the visuals. The visuals perfectly recreate that world. It can't get no more perfect. But you got that part of it right. But then nothing. And this critic's like, the jokes aren't half that bad either. But for me, like, I didn't. What? Literally. Like, what jokes?
The again, the only good jokes that I liked were in the trailer, and that was it.
Right.
And we already saw them, and then I was trying to...
Toto has a really big car. Mario gets punched in the face a ton of times, and that's why he says, it's a me, Mario.
Those were the two times I let a small chuckle out.
Yeah, the penguins were like, yeah, it's only a taste. It's like, that was the first thing that you
The
showed.
penguins are the best part of the film. They were like me as an audience because all their lines was what I was saying. At one point, the Penguin King is like, shut up! Or something, I forget what it was. Because there's this little fucking flame character that uses the baby...
Imagine being so out of touch with the Mario brand. You can't even you don't even know what a Luma is. That's how out of touch Angry Joe is. He doesn't know what a Luma is. He probably doesn't know who like Rosalina is. He probably didn't even recognize Pauline. Like, come on.
Voice, you're supposed to be like, oh,
It's so fucking cute. I love him. It's a fucking real. But he's like a Debbie Downer, like psychotic, person. It's like playing for laughs, so funny. The kids are like, I don't know what the fuck is going on. It sounds like that. But the kids are not laughing, and adults are just, I guess maybe some adults.
Lots of people found that character funny. Dog Walker actually praised that character. I think that was his favorite character in the movie, actually.
I thought it was funny, but
I didn't hear a lot of kids.
That just reminds me of, what is it? It was one of the Disney animated ones. Where they just like push a character like, the baby, that baby is Kung Fu baby, it's the best thing ever. There was some, I think it was like a Chinese one. You remember the female lead? She was, I wanted to like this thing more, and it just didn't have the heart. Didn't have the the laughs, didn't have the script, didn't have the plot. Now, let's talk about it, right? The biggest thing is, Chris Pratt. Y'all tell me, what do you think of him? I mean, we all talk shit, we all like, oh, this is terrible, he's just doing Chris Pratt.
Yeah, because you just
what did you think about
jump on the bandwagon.
Just like,
it's fine.
Okay.
Okay, let's take a moment to talk about this. All that backlash towards Chris Pratt, all that bitching, all that whining, complaining, it's fine. Like, these people are saying the same thing I said about like Chris Pratt being cast. Who cares, really? Like, I never understood that. I was always speaking out against that. Like, and now that the movie's out, even like these harsh critics are just like, yeah, his Mario is fine. Like,
from this, because of his voice,
Yeah,
it was fine.
Yes, that's exactly how I felt. I was like, some people are like, we were all shitting on Chris Pratt, and then some people after seeing this are like, Chris Pratt does a great job after seeing the film. No, I still think it's average at best.
I
I give you maybe average.
Because he did more of an accent when he was doing that trailer or his
The
commercial.
funny commercial. That was honestly, that had a lot of energy in it, and I was getting encouraged. I was like, hey, this almost kind of feels a little Ghostbusters, a little, hey, we're plumbers, we're having that energy, but they were just putting on a voice. He said, is it too much? It's like, no, not too much. And then the whole thing, the catchphrase of the film is Mamma Mia. Like his family is Mamma Mia every time something crazy happens, and when something happens,
Yeah, I think his dad is Charlie.
Mamma Mia.
Charles.
Well, there was a guy who was like, "Is it too much?" And then there was a guy at the arcade who said, "No, what is it?" And he's doing the Mario voice. I think that was Charles.
Yeah, I think his dad also.
Maybe he did multiple characters. Okay. Well, honestly, Charles should have been the voice. He could have done this much better, and I think it would have elevated it slightly. Now, but I think we all agree Chris Pratt's voice was not the problem.
No.
I actually did not like Seth Rogen as Donkey Kong.
Bullshit. Donkey Kong was the best character. Like, when he comes out to the DK rap, most hype moment in the entire movie for me. Like, that was awesome. Joe doesn't know what the DK rap is. He doesn't know who Donkey Kong is. Like, so he doesn't have an appreciation for the character and, like, what it does. And what an original, fresh take on it. It is. Like, this is probably the most personality DK has ever had. Like, this is, I think, the performance of the film. More so than, like, Jack Black's Bowser, even. Which, I think everybody was expecting to like. I really enjoyed DK in this. And, like, to see Joe just casually just be like, oh, that performance was awful. Go fuck yourself, Joe. That legitimately upsets me.
That did not work for me at all. He's just Seth Rogen and everything. It's just Seth Rogen. You know what I mean? And it just doesn't work on Donkey Kong.
He's the Rock.
The Rock, yeah.
I thought it was, yeah, it's kind of like just him being him, but still no chemistry between him and Mario, which is a lot of the scenes, which kind of fell flat for me.
We don't like each other. Get it? And it's
Yeah,
like, no,
it's like-
what? This is
Okay, now we have to take into account mega Super Nintendo fans, the rabid ones.
You're gonna love the film. You're gonna enjoy the hell out of it. For Easter egg purposes? Yeah, probably. I mean, there's a ton of Easter egg stuff that I don't even know. It's just filled with that. And then plus it's a Nintendo brand. They're gonna like it whether they like it or not.
Oh man, Nintendo's product. Just for speaking about a Nintendo product, this video probably got DMCA claimed.
Now here's the thing.
Go fuck yourself, Alex. I don't understand why they do this. Like, what is this narrative about Nintendo DMCA claiming, like, gameplay footage and, like, talking about their products? They don't do that. Like, why are they still pushing that narrative? It's 2023.
And this is one of those weird things that it's like, I think the sequel will be better. I hope the sequel will be better, and like that, but this one ain't it, Chief. Is it better than John Leguizamo? And yeah, I guess, but that's not a bar that anybody was expecting that we would get anywhere near, and it almost got near.
The fact that we're even having to discuss it, are they?
They're seriously saying that the 90s one, the live action version of Super Mario Bros. Is better than this film. Something that absolutely no one who has actually seen that film in the past 20 years will say. That movie's terrible. Like, maybe you like it because it's so terrible. I've kind of defended certain aspects of it. I even did so in my review. But, like, saying it's better than the original, like, no, that's just... No, like, go fuck yourself, Joe. Like, that movie was the big reason why the fact that this game, this one being so faithful to the original is a big deal, all right? Like, and they don't bring that up at all. They only bring up this movie to, like, say that, like, oh man, maybe it's about the same level of quality. No, not even close. Go watch the 90s version and tell me it's the same level of quality as this one, okay? Like, you don't know what you're talking about.
One is better is a massive fucking problem. Right. This was such a layup. It's a kid's movie. All you have to do, pretend that do a scene where Mario thinks that Luigi is dead, right? And you've got this whole thing where he gets power.
He got captured. Like, what's the big deal? Like,
and then you realize that you have heart. It is.
Yeah, they just complained about like Luigi being separated from Mario from the movie. Like, and they're gonna say like, "Oh, Luigi should have died." Like, what?
So easy to set up hard in these fucking kids movies, and Shazam too. We got nothing. There's nothing in here, and you hire like this movie is filled with so many funny people, and we got nothing funny from them.
Funny. They weren't allowed to be themselves. They were all allowed to be what Matthew Fogel wanted them to be. They all have the same kind of style to them, and it's just, anyways.
And Phil Lamar was the voices for it.
Disappointment.
That's what you get to look forward to here in the film. Mario's bad until he isn't. Bad at everything until he isn't. He has heart. That's basically it.
He doesn't know when to quit.
He doesn't know when to quit. Yeah. And it's like I said, keeping Luigi and Mario separated because there was magic there at the beginning of the film between Charlie Day and Chris Pratt and the brothers thing, and then they just kind of split them up. That's bad. So yeah, and then the Bowser creepy thing and the world. I'm not even gonna talk about how the world doesn't make sense because obviously it's fucking Mario. It doesn't matter, but like I just would have rather it had been a different script. They probably, I don't know if they had multiple scripts, but I probably would have looked at one of the other ones.
Oh, for sure.
Just really, really flat. That's what I have to say about it. It's really, really flat. Explain yourself, Joe. Nope, it's flat. Let's go final verdicts. Oh, I did explain myself this whole fucking video.
Visuals were amazing. I like that. I like the nostalgia music whenever they did do the power-ups and stuff like that. The character-wise, I think Bowser did great, but little to do. He didn't do enough. Sad just seeing it, and like I said, gush over Peach. Over every time he showed up.
Jack Black. Oh, how did you like Jack Black as Bowser? I liked him.
But they didn't get.
Other than he does have a musical sequence where you talk about the Peach. That's Tenacious D, and he's literally Jack Black when he's doing that part. But I don't know. It's.
Yeah, not enough to do with him. Luigi and Charlie did a great job, but again, they just kind of kicked him to the curb for a while. The main thing was with Donkey Kong and Mario. Didn't feel the chemistry there, so throughout their journey,
Bullshit. No, come on.
again, felt flat.
Yep.
There was not a lot of hardness, no nothing.
This is better than your favorite Marvel movie. Go fuck yourself, Joes. Go fuck yourself, Alex.
Very disappointed.
Oh, Joe, you're just sticking them by.
I wanted to enjoy it.
Me too. I'm just joking.
I'm gonna go with the 5. This is honestly just an average film. It's by the numbers. It's like, all right, here's a check mark. Motor car racing. All right, you're gonna do platforming. All right, you're gonna do this.
Yeah.
But it's just like instant, and you blink and it's gone.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's no story. There's nothing here, and it's just really, really pretty, and it's really nice to hear the music when it does.
Visuals are here.
And then the music is there when they're using the original stuff, and you
And
get
not the fucking rock.
yeah, it's just not that stuff is just it was out of place. And so I think that this movie's got a lot of things that went really well, as far as again just probably the visuals and the music and just getting to see all the different worlds. But other than that, I think that everything else kind of fell flat. I think if you got kids, they're going to enjoy it. I don't think they're going to really love it. This is not going to be one where you're going to buy the Blu-ray of it and they're going to love it all the time. Yeah, no, this isn't that kind of thing. I think there are a bunch of better children's movies. So I do think in the end that this ended up being an average movie. I mean, it's a story. It's kind of inoffensive, but like I said before, they risked absolutely nothing, and that's what they accomplished. Yep.
Yeah, I don't want to see it again.
Fine. 5. Yeah, I'm also at 5 out of 10, and I honestly don't give a shit. Downloaders get mad at us. This is an average movie in my consideration. We all wanted it to be a better. We all wanted to come out here and tell you the critics are wrong and that what were you expecting in this kind. Well, I was expecting to laugh. I was expecting to have a good time,
but
more of a good time, and a story. I was expecting it to be better than half of the Minions film.
Yeah, keep in mind that these guys like defend all sorts of like real crap. I'd like to see let's see, Angry Joe Monster Hunter movie. And what'd they give that? Let's see. Yeah, they gave the Monster Hunter movie an 8 out of 10. Hang on.
have achieved an 8 for me. But they sequel bait real hard, kind of cut it at the end, sort of like a.
So this guy, Monster Hunter, is a perfectly fine, serviceable video game adaptation, but the Mario movie is just average. Okay? Like, the Sonic movie is a really well-made, interesting video game adaptation, but the Mario movie is average. Castlevania is a great video game adaptation, but the Mario movie is average. Don't you see a real problem here? Don't you see kind of like an agenda being pushed? Isn't it kind of interesting how like all these non-Nintendo products are perfectly fine, but like then you have this really good Nintendo movie and then suddenly there's this big problem? Like, it is absurd. It is ridiculous. It is crazy seeing just comparing this the Mario movie score to like other film scores, right? That they've also done. Like, it really just comes off as like really off base. It really comes off as if they're just trying to justify giving the Mario movie a poor review, trying to like defend the critics, considering how much they talk about like how the critics are completely 100% right about this, like, which isn't true at all. Yeah, this is like this is the angriest I've been at Joe for a long time. Like, there was that bit earlier this year with like the whole Resident Evil 4 thing, but this is like worse. Like, honestly, like, this is just embarrassing. Like, this is just him trying very, very hard to try and like downplay the oncoming storm that is like the wave of new great Nintendo movies, right? Trying really hard to pretend as if like critic opinions matter at all. They don't. Like, this movie was very well received. It's very popular. It made a ton of money, and like people actually enjoy it. And I don't know if he tries doing this again with the sequel. I do think there is at some point going to be like a major backlash to it. I don't think he's going to be able to keep this up forever. I do think eventually my videos are going to get discovered and like people are going to realize that like, wait a minute, none of this makes any sense. He's praising Monster Hunter but shitting on like Super Mario Bros. 2. Like, what? Like, it doesn't make any sense. So I think, I do think Angry Joe is playing with fire at this point. I do think eventually people are going to catch on that like people like this are like trying desperately to push a narrative, and I do think it's eventually going to blow up in his face. I do think eventually there is going to be major backlash to how badly he talks about Nintendo and their products, and I don't know how well he's going to handle it. I think like a lot of YouTubers, he's kind of on his last leg at this point. I think once he like loses all of his like old school fans, he's basically done. I had a look at his channel the other day, and it seems like this year he's been getting a lot less views than he did like the year before. So we'll have to see if that like that trend continues downward. But yeah, this review was just like downright atrocious. It was bad. It was embarrassing. 5 out of 10 for the Mario movie? No. That is embarrassing. It's not that bad. It's perfectly serviceable, and people really need to appreciate like these kinds of things more. This was a really well-made adaptation, and it really deserves to be given more credit for what it did for the fans and for the general audience. The Super Mario Bros. Movie was a great film, and I wish more people would acknowledge it.